Slovakia, a small country in the heart of Europe that emerged from over 40 years of communist dictatorship to become an independent, prosperous country, heavily profiting from its access to the world markets. A full member of both the European Union and NATO, Slovakia's GDP has grown more than tenfold since 1990, and the country has even enjoyed free elections with frequent changes of government. So, to an outside observer, it would seem to indicate that the future is bright. But as you might have guessed, if you've been watching Central Europe and this channel for some time, appearances can be terribly deceiving. Because despite all of this apparent success, Slovakia's democracy has actually died. Yes, even if they still technically have elections. Let's discuss this. I'm Jan, this is Prague Pulse, and in this two-part mini-series, we're first going to identify the exact moment when Slovakia's democracy was dealt a fatal blow and how that happened. In the second video, we'll then show you exactly in much more detail how Prime Minister Robert Fico has gutted Slovak democracy and whether something can be done about it. And as always, if you like what I do, please consider subscribing to the channel and also supporting me on herohero.co/PraguePulse. You really make all of this possible. And now, let's dive in. First, let's address the elephant in the room, of course. You might well be thinking, what the hell did this guy just say? On the one hand, he's admitted that Slovaks do have regular elections and people in power change, and yet he's claiming that Slovakia is not democratic? And yeah, exactly, that's what I'm saying. Let me explain. See, having elections is not the only condition for a healthy democracy to exist, not by a long shot. In fact, elections are only a formal component, but by themselves, they don't ensure that democracy as such will function at all. Much like Teslas, they may still be great and innovative cars, but that alone doesn't save the brand and its stock price when the person running Tesla is a complete idiot. And Slovakia is basically a Tesla right now. The potential for success is definitely there, but the retards running the country have destroyed it completely, much like Tesla. To see how the destruction began, we need to talk about Slovak history a bit, I'm sorry. Also, after you've done with this piece, definitely do watch some of my previous content in Slovakia because we've done a lot already. As you know, modern independent Slovakia came into existence following the peaceful breakup of Czechoslovakia in 1993. And although its economic growth, all the way from the communist ashes, has been truly remarkable, let's just say that its relationship with democracy hasn't been perfect. After Czechoslovakia's breakup, this man, Vladimír Mečiar, became the first PM of the newly independent Slovak state. Now, talking about Mečiar would itself be enough for an entire video, so let's just keep it short for now. For anyone following the region, it's probably no surprise that Mečiar was involved in large-scale corruption, with billions of euros reportedly lost during privatization under Mečiar's watch. But you know, corruption has basically become synonymous with the 90s in post-communist Europe anywhere, so that's nothing surprising. But apart from that, Mečiar was also a true authoritarian, aiming to gain absolute power. And to make that happen, he basically turned Slovakia of the 90s into a true police state, with all that comes with it, including targeting the media, the opposition, and even killing, literal physical liquidation of his opponents. A great but depressing example of what Mečiar's rule in Slovakia was like was his conflict with the then president of Slovakia, Michal Kovács, who was once his ally but now stood in the way of Mečiar actually gaining absolute power. So Mečiar needed to get rid of the president. And to do that, he enlisted the help of the Slovak intelligence service, the SIS. He instructed the intelligence service to kidnap the president's son. Yes, you heard me. Apparently, the agents of the SIS not only kidnapped him, but also beat him up and electrocuted him. And then they dropped him off in neighboring Austria. And later, a bomb planted in a car killed a person responsible for uncovering the government's involvement in the kidnapping. A few years later, when President Kovács's mandate ended and Mečiar really did assume powers of the president, he pardoned everyone involved in the case. So, although this all sounds like from a really bad Bond movie from Eastern Europe, it really did happen. All of it. And no one was ever convicted. Things in Slovakia were so bad that the US Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, who by the way herself was born in Czechoslovakia, called Slovakia a black hole in the heart of Europe. As a result, Slovakia's entry into NATO was delayed, and it wasn't at all sure that the country would be allowed to join either NATO or the EU. because of the state of the rule of law in the country. But ultimately, in 1999, the opposition, led by this guy, Mikuláš Dzurinda, managed to oust Mečiar, and Slovakia did manage to return on a more pro-European course and eventually did join both NATO and the EU. Well, all good, right? Wrong. Because here's the deal. High-ranking people from Dzurinda's government, who at the time enjoyed high levels of trust in Slovak society, were later involved in large-scale corruption themselves as part of the so-called Gorila scandal that leaked to the public. So while undoubtedly more liberal than Mečiar and while managing to lead the country into both the EU and NATO, Dzurinda's government, into which average Slovaks put a lot of faith initially, suddenly became about just as trustworthy as Bill Clinton after he denied his relationship with Monica Lewinsky.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Indeed, I did have a relationship with Ms. Lewinsky that was not appropriate.
Basically, as always, when privatization was involved in Central Europe, this was about millions of euros of kickbacks and potentially stealing billions of public assets. Now, the corruption scheme leaked to the public in December 2011, shortly before Slovakia's general election planned for March 2012. And the leak changed everything. Now, the Gorilla scandal basically meant the end for Dzurinda's party. Its polling numbers fell quicker than the stocks of Tesla these days. The party lost half of its MPs and tumbled to only 6% of the vote, so barely scraping past the 5% threshold needed to even get to the parliament. Robert Fico, on the other hand, was catapulted into power with an absolute majority of votes, so a single-party government, which is highly unusual in a proportionate system, by the way. It didn't even matter to the electorate that Fico himself used to be a prominent communist, or that he was mentioned in the Gorilla files many times. I guess people always like to punish the incumbent government more than the opposition. There's some research to support that. And so, paradoxically, some 20 years after the revolution that ended a single-party communist dictatorship in Slovakia, Slovaks democratically and freely elected a former aspiring apparatchik to lead a new kind of a single-party government in Slovakia. But I mean, that in itself didn't really kill Slovakia's democracy just yet. The true fatal blow came because neither Fico nor any other politician have been able or willing to get rid of systemic corruption and punish crimes. And you don't have to be a genius to see why, right? Just look at Fico. He himself was involved in Gorilla, so why would he want it properly investigated? Not a single conviction was handed down in the Gorilla case in the end, despite the fact that there were around 39 hours of incriminating recordings that could have been used to implicate someone. But instead, the oligarch, seen here, managed to have those recordings ruled inadmissible on procedural grounds, so they couldn't be used in court, so all of the people walked free. That's a prime example of clientelism and corruption right there. And it proves that the roots of corruption and clientelism in Slovakia run incredibly deep. The Gorilla case was to be prosecuted by Special Prosecutor Dušan Kováčik. I guess what made him really special was his actual nickname, Mr. 610. That nickname came about because out of the 61 corruption cases that were referred to him in his career, he has filed a grand total of 0 lawsuits, Gorilla included. Now, unsurprisingly at this point, Mr. 610 has been a close ally of Fico's government over the years and has been given very generous financial bonuses by them. In 2019, for example, he was paid more than the Prime Minister himself. Now, of course, we can only guess if Fico was trying to buy Kováčik's loyalty or if it was just a really big coincidence and he really did deserve the money. But we do know this. Over the years, Fico has lived in one of the most luxurious apartments in the Slovak capital, in a complex built by a convicted criminal, by the way. Fico owns another luxury apartment in the historical center of Bratislava, has worn a number of disgustingly expensive watches. One of them, for example, costs over 20,000 euros, or even stayed in hotel rooms with fucking gold-plated baths, where one a night costs 6,000 euros. Now, at the same time, Fico himself has declared that he only earns a fraction of these amounts. So the question is, where did he get the money to buy all of this? I mean, it surely doesn't have anything to do with Mr. 610 Kováčik keeping quiet, right? Now, that's the true death of Slovak democracy. While people are protesting and want justice, like the huge crowds after the gorilla leaks, or the even bigger crowds after the 2018 killing of an investigative journalist who was killed precisely because he worked on uncovering the links between organized crime and the state, nothing happens. And why? Because the politicians simply do not want justice. You know, because then they themselves may actually fall victim to justice. Yes, I mean, there was a short period when Fico had been voted out of power and a new government of Igor Matovic, seen here, promised to tackle corruption. For a short time, Dušan Kováčik, Mr. 610, was even in jail for, surprise, accepting a bribe. Fico himself faced investigations. But then the government of Matovic screwed up so bad on things like handling the COVID pandemic that it fell and enabled the later return of Fico to power in 2023. Pretty much immediately after Fico's re-election, he got Kováčik out of prison. Surprise, surprise. He abolished the special prosecutor's office entirely, the office that was actually supposed to investigate corruption, and also got rid of the anti-corruption police force. So today, there is pretty much no one left at all to enforce justice and investigate corruption as it pertains to those who are well connected and in power. And it got so bad that Fico's government doesn't even bother trying to explain themselves anymore. They don't bother explaining where they got the money for the expensive watches or the gold-plated hotel rooms anymore. Why? Because they feel they don't have to. You know, from their point of view, they've ensured lifelong immunity for themselves and their allies by, for example, abolishing the special prosecutor office, by installing their loyalists into positions of power, so they don't have to be afraid and they don't need to be accountable to the voters anymore. I mean, as the oligarch involved in Gorilla said himself on the secret recordings, remember we have 39 hours of them, but they were no use, the average voter is just a piece of shit. And that's exactly why the spirit of democracy in Slovakia is dead, and they know it. Let's see if and how it can be resurrected. As I said, there's going to be a second episode explaining what exactly Fico did since returning to power to weaken Slovakia's democracy even more. We'll definitely keep watching Slovakia to the future, so don't forget to subscribe, and thanks again to everyone supporting me on herohero.co/Prague Pulse or here on YouTube. Do drop a comment. What do you think about Slovakia? This has been Jan. See you next time.